other than that, like other than the things that you quote unquote have to do, you just don't feel like doing anything else. You don't want to go outside. You don't want to talk to anybody. You just don't want to do anything because babes, welcome back. It's episode 2. Not as being consistent, but if you're new, welcome. I'm Kim. You might know me as Martha. If you don't know me, now you know. Here we do wellness content. We talk about things that matter to me, that I think might matter to you. You know, the way we live, good, bad, ugly, indifferent. And we just try to see how we could help each other to make the world a little less undesirable. So, welcome, and I hope you stick around. So, today we're talking about anxiety again. In my last video, I talked about the fact that it's okay to not be okay. Check up here. So today, let me ask you, is anxiety real or fake? And the thing is, these are questions that people ask all the time. You can Google it because a lot of people think that we're doing this thing on purpose, you know? Oh, you're just lazy, or maybe you just need some sleep, or maybe you're just tired. What do you mean anxiety? What do you mean? Like, what is that? Right? But the thing is, anxiety can look like two things. On the one hand, it is a mental health disorder, which means that it is something that is real, that genuinely affects people's lives day to day. And there are different types of anxiety. There's generalized anxiety, which means that people just have fears that sometimes don't make sense. There are panic disorders, and there's also the anxiety that presents itself when something major happens in your life, right? And then there's just, how should I say, a feeling of anxiety where you're just anxious about something. And like when people say, oh, I'm feeling anxious, I'm just a bit uneasy, that's a thing too. No, is it real or is it fake? Is the question. It's a real thing. Think about it like this. Imagine you wake up every day and you just don't know what to do with yourself. Regular things like making breakfast or getting yourself ready for the day just seems like too much. It's just too much. Or sometimes the little energy that you do have, you use it just to do the bare minimum. So you eat, shower, get yourself ready for work. Other than that, like other than the things that you quote unquote have to do, you just don't feel like doing anything else. You don't want to go outside. You don't want to talk to anybody. You just don't want to do anything because it's just too much, right? And a lot of people think that these things are lazy, like they're manifestations of laziness, but they're not. They're very different. I can't speak for the rest of the world or the rest of people who experience any form of anxiety. I can only speak for myself. I'm not a lazy person. If you know me, you know that I like walking. I would rather walk than jump in a vehicle to go, like 2 miles away. I like to get up, I like to do things. But there are times in my life where the smallest task, even something as small as getting dressed, it just seems like a lot because in my mind, I'm thinking about what am I going to wear? What's the weather going to be like? It's just, and I know that me explaining it may not make sense to some people, but that's just the reality of things. The smallest things cause major issues inside here for me because I overthink what it means to do something very simple. That's not me not wanting to do it. That's just me having fears about what it might present, what it might cause, you know? And I could say more, but I do want to keep certain things to myself. So I'll just keep it simple. But I'll say this. I want to say that this video is not for people who have respect for the reality of mental disorders. But you know what? It is for you too, because we coexist with you. you who are considered normal or regular. And it's difficult when we, the people who experience anxiety, have to live alongside you, work alongside you, have children with you, share space with you in whatever way, when you don't understand what we're experiencing. And sometimes these things lead to arguments, they lead to people breaking up, they lead to people just being estranged from family, from friends, and whatnot, because there's a lack of understanding. And to some degree, it's okay because I don't think that everybody is supposed to walk your walk with you. But to an extent, it's really not okay because I feel like if you say you love me, you should love me in every aspect of my life. You should love me in whatever, how should I say, in every capacity. You may not necessarily fully understand what I'm experiencing. You may not fully be able to help me, but at least be kind. Be open to the fact that I'm experiencing something that is real to me, right? I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not doing it for attention. I'm not doing it because I'm lazy. I'm not doing it because I don't want to deal with life. I'm doing it, well, I shouldn't say I'm doing it. I'm experiencing this real thing that is actually affecting me, right? And the important thing is for people like me to, first of all, acknowledge that we are experiencing something and make a point to focus on ourselves. Make it a point to not listen to the noise around that people who are, the naysayers who are saying, oh, nothing is wrong with you. Leave that alone and focus on you. What can I do for me? How do I feel in these moments when this anxiety hits? Do I have shortness of breath? Am I shaking? Do I have trouble speaking? Do I have trouble sleeping? What is it that I'm experiencing? What do I think is triggering me? Right? And what can I do to make this better? I think these are the things that we need to focus on within ourselves. Because at the end of the day, there are people in our lives who are never going to understand what we're going through. There are people in our lives who are never going to believe that what we're going through is real. And there are people in our lives who aren't only not going to understand and not believe, but will make us feel like shit because we're going through this. Because they would have the worst to say about us and they would make us feel small as a result. So I feel like it's very important not to try to make them understand necessarily, although, yes, it's important to share information. But sometimes we go through all of that. We present them with the information, we explain the symptoms that we're feeling, but they just have this mental block because they already come into the situation with the preconceived idea that we're making it up. So they're not going to believe. So there's absolutely nothing that you can do. So instead of trying to make them see you or see us as real people who are experiencing real things, focus on yourself. You know what you're feeling. You know what you're experiencing. You know what you're experiencing. You know that it's real to you. So you need to seek the necessary assistance, change the way that you operate to ensure that this thing is something that doesn't take over your life and cause you to just flop. I've actually had somebody say to me, if I knew you were this kind of person, we would have just remained friends. And by this kind of person, that person meant someone who experiences anxiety. And in that moment, I said, you know what? Thank you for your honesty, because at least now I understand how you see me. And I recognize that your feelings toward me are now filled with scorn and not love, not appreciation, not care, but scorn. because you love certain aspects of me, but you don't love me fully. You don't love me unconditionally. And I think it's important for people to come to terms with the fact that maybe I'm not in a position to love somebody who's experiencing anxiety. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying it's important for us to recognize that we don't all have the same capacity. So if you know you cannot love me as I am, then leave me alone. It's better that way. It's better that you leave me alone, because if you stick around and claim that, yes, I'm going to love you no matter what. And then when we fall on hard times because my anxiety is acting up and getting the better of me, then you're going to leave me in a lurch. All of a sudden, all the support and love and care is going to fade away because you don't have the capacity to love me in this form. And the truth of the matter is, I cannot speak for everybody who experiences anxiety. I can speak for myself, and I can speak for the people that I know and love who also experience anxiety. We're not people who sit down there and wait for things to happen. We are people who move our bodies. We try to eat well. We try to drink water. We do the things that we need to do to balance our hormones and keep our minds clear. I know a few people who experience anxiety, but there are times when it becomes so overwhelming because the mind is so powerful that our efforts seem like nothing. But here's what I recognize: the more you work at it, right? The more you work at it, is the better off you'll be when the anxiety hits. So I've recently had an attack, and I guess the people on the outside looking in, it was a terrible experience, but I've experienced worse. I know I've experienced worse. And I've been able to manage that attack or come out of that attack easier than I was in the past because I've learned a lot about what I'm experiencing, and I've learned about how to manage it better. And I've been doing things that have helped me to manage my emotions, to manage my mental wellness, so that now when I get anxiety attacks, it's not nearly as bad as it used to be, right? But I've recognized, even with all of that, with the management, with the trying, with the, helping myself to be better, anxiety in some forms never actually goes away. It can only be managed, right? And that's what I'm saying. If there are people in your life who claim to love you, but scorn you and look at you with disdain when you're experiencing this real thing, then it's better that they leave you alone. Because even if you're doing the things that you need to do to manage your anxiety, there are times when the attacks will come on stronger, because that's just the way it is. It's never going to go away 100%. An anxious person is an anxious person. So if you can't love me now, then leave me alone. Leave me alone. So anyway, I realize I'm getting hot. So I'm going to say this. Anxiety is a real thing. Just like some people have asthma, high blood pressure, diabetes, which are all physical illnesses, there are people who have mental disorders that cause them great stress and pain in their lives. For some people, it's more chronic than it is for others. At the end of the day, what I think needs to happen is that the awareness of the realness of this thing needs to be raised. And we need to accept that everybody isn't the same. So sometimes for you, if you're feeling stressed, going and take a walk or running would completely fix the problem. For me, going and take a walk or going to the gym would help the problem. It would ease the problem. But there are times when, even with my best effort, I still fall back into an anxious state. And that's just the way it is for me. Am I going to stop doing the things that would help me? No, I'm not going to stop. But is it my reality that I may always have to deal with anxiety in some form or another? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I think that it's important for us to recognize that we're not all the same. We coexist with people who have many different ailments. And I think that respect and acceptance are what's important. So, babes, from my heart to yours, treat people with kindness, and kindness will be returned to you. Until next time, love and light.